Death at Daisy's Folly. Chapter 26. I like high life, I like its manners, its splendours, the beings which move in its enchanted spheres. Charlotte Bronte. Destiny always had a sad side to it. For instance, I, who was always longing to be free, have chained my life. I shall never be alone, never. I shall be surrounded by the etiquette of court, whose principal victim I shall be. Empress Eugenie, wife of Louis Napoleon of France. The fireworks were a splendid display, arcing into the heavens in extravagant traceries of brightly colored light. For Kate, the sight awakened a deep nostalgia. She had grown up with Independence Day fireworks celebrations, and she had not seen such a presentation since she left New York almost 2 years ago. So much had happened since then, her inheritance of Bishop Keep, the publication of more and more Beryl Bardwell's work, and soon her marriage to a man that she deeply loved and respected. She couldn't help feeling like the girl in the fairy tale who woke up one day to discover herself transformed into a beautiful princess, able to do and have anything she chose. As she held Charles' hand and murmured with the others at the golden showers of sparks, she felt giddy with wondering delight. But when Charles told her what he had learned during the tea-time conversations, and confided the plan for the evening to her, she sobered quickly enough. "There may be some danger," Charles said in a low voice under the sound of the explosions that rattled the windows and shook the furniture. "But Daisy needs to be watched, and you're the only person I can trust. Kirk Smythe and I will be nearby in case you need us. Will you do it?" "Of course," Kate said, and was rewarded by a swift kiss and a lingering touch. "But what do I do?" "Just use your head," Charles said. He squeezed her hand and was gone. When the fireworks were over, Lady Warwick proposed dancing, but the prince replied with a massive yawn that it had been an exceedingly long day, and he for one was too tired to even play bridge. His Highness having put an end to the evening, the others had perforce to agree. Although it was only a little after 11, the company gathered their candles at the foot of the main staircase and trooped dutifully off to bed, or to whatever other pleasures they might have arranged for themselves. Kate waited a few minutes to be sure that the hallway was clear, then took her candle and went to Daisy's room, where she found her and her lady's maid in the midst of preparing for bed. A shotgun was leaning incongruously against the chest of drawers, on top of which was displayed a lavish bouquet of hot-housed gladiolus and fern. "I've never held one of those," Kate said, glancing at the gun, "but I suppose you know how to use it." "Oh, quite," Daisy said, as the maid finished brushing her hair. She dismissed her with a gesture and turned back to Kate. "There's a tea tray on the table, Kate. Do help yourself." "Thank you," Kate said, and poured a cup of tea and put several small cakes on the plate. She saw that the bed had been turned down, revealing lavish lace-edged silken sheets. On a bedside table was a bowl of heavily scented roses, yet the yellow damask draperies were pulled shut, and a bright fire burned in the grate. The only sounds were the hissing of the gas lamps on the walls, which shed a golden glow over the room, and the ticking of an elaborate gold clock on the writing table with the curious inscription, "I've had my hour." Wearing a gold satin dressing gown, Daisy pulled a yellow velvet chair closer to the fire and sat down. "I'm dreadfully sorry that you must sacrifice a night's sleep just to keep a watch over me, but I must confess to wanting to talk with you in private. Charles has told me that—" She stopped, as if she weren't even sure how much she should say. If Charles hadn't already told her, he soon would, Kate thought. She sat down in the opposite chair, put a cup and plate on a small carved table beside it. "Charles has asked me to marry him," she said, "and I have said yes. Neither of us want an elaborate wedding, and his family is rather distracted just now with the illness of his brother. We hope to be married quickly without fuss in the local parish church." "Oh, my dear!" Daisy exclaimed and clapped her hands. "I am delighted for both of you. Charles had always seemed to me such a rare man, and you—" She put her head on one side, her gaze thoughtful. "Jenny Churchill is the only American woman I've known intimately. You are rather like her, you know." "But Lady Churchill comes from a wealthy family," Kate protested. "I'm an orphan, an Irish. Aunt and uncle who raised me, well, he's a policeman in New York, but very poor. I grew up in a family of 6 children and had to make my own way in the world. I worked as a governess and—" She stopped herself before she mentioned Beryl Bardwell. "Have done other things," she finished lamely. "I don't see how Lady Churchill and I can be compared." That may be, Daisy said, but you and Jenny are both beautiful. Even more, you are both extraordinarily spirited and independent. I've always admired women who assert their freedom to do as they choose, no matter who says otherwise. Regret flickered clearly in her eyes. That is the sort of freedom that I have never enjoyed myself. Kate, who had been about to protest the idea that she was beautiful, her face was better described, she thought, as strong-featured, now found herself protesting the idea that Daisy was confined by anything. But how can you say that you're not free? She asked in amazement. You of all women. Because I'm the mistress of the Prince of Wales? Daisy's laugh was gently mocking. Do you think I chose that distinction? Well, yes, I suppose I did, Kate admitted. Didn't you? Daisy pulled her dressing gown closer around her, her face half in the firelight, half in shadow. I admit to certain scheming for royal attention, she said slowly. But at the time it was Bertie's help I needed, not his romantic attentions. I was involved in a rather messy disagreement with Lady Beresford over a letter I had written to her husband, and Bertie was the only one who could intervene to save me from scandal. She looked pained at the recollection. But that's beside the point. The truth is that once His Royal Highness had decided that he wants a particular woman, it is utterly impossible for her to refuse him, however she may feel. Oh, Kate said, suddenly seeing through the romantic veil she and Bill Bardwell had thrown over the affair. And once he has a preferred woman, Daisy went on, she is his alone, except, of course, that her husband may also enjoy her. But in many ways the prince is like a spoiled child, extraordinarily demanding of time and attention and fearful of spending an evening without some amusement. If there is a gap of even 1 hour in his engagement book, he looks at it with a sinking heart. Her sigh held a clear, felt, bitter irony. I should have had a great deal more freedom if His Highness had preferred someone else. You don't love him, then? Kate asked. Pardon me if the question is presumptuous, she added hurriedly, but Daisy did not seem to mind. I am rather fond of him, Daisy said, and he is foolishly affectionate toward me. He is infatuated, I suppose, which is not at all the same thing as love. She waved her hand as if dismissing the idea. It is hard to say what love is, don't you find? Well, Kate said, for her, love was an emotion, not easily confused with any other, but perhaps that was because she had loved only one man in her life, Charles. What's more, she had naively imagined that Daisy and the prince must love one another deeply and romantically. Why else take so many risks? Why engage in an affair if not for love? Was it simply for the sake of passion? Or was one partner using the other for his, or her, own needs? Why, indeed? The question inquired a great deal more thought. It is not just the time and the attention the prince requires that makes my life difficult. Daisy shifted in her chair, her pretty mouth tightening. It's the extraordinary expenditure of money. To be painfully honest, Kate, the expense of entertaining royalty is beyond imagination. The weekend's entertainment, I could have fed all the poor in the workhouse for 6 months with what I've spent. And every time Bertie comes to visit, as he does quite often, his rooms must be redecorated and new entertainments prepared. That does seem rather costly, Kate murmured, agreeing, thinking that the price of a princely lover was much higher than she had ever imagined. Daisy continued, almost as if she were talking to herself at this point. Brooke and I have already spent the whole next year's income, and we owe almost £75,000, with little expectation of ever repaying. Reggie held one of my notes, she added reflectively. Perhaps now that he is dead I shan't have to pay it. If that's true, Brooke will be very relieved. He's so anxious about money these days. If he could find some way to put an end to our dreadful expenditures, I'm sure he would seize it. Kate hoped that Daisy realized that she had not solicited this confidence about the Warwicks' financial situation, and would not come to regret speaking so openly. But everything Daisy said, especially her admission of the Warwicks' extraordinary debt, pointed to Lord Warwick's guilt. What if he had killed Wallace and implicated his wife in order to convince the prince to find another mistress? Of course, the money Daisy owed Wallace would have provided an additional motive. Kate made a mental note to tell Charles what she had learned. There was a long silence, broken only by the loud ticking of the clock on the writing table. After a time, Daisy spoke again. Another great difficulty, she said sadly, is that I have been preferred by Bertie. Another great difficulty, she said sadly, is that, having been preferred by Bertie, I find myself cut off from all other friends. There's no one to whom I may speak, no one whom I trust enough to unburden myself. There was an unutterable sadness on her face. Not even my poor husband, who long ago lost all love for me. Not that I blame him, of course. The Warwicks are a conservative family. They've been much embarrassed by the notoriety that attends my situation. Kate, hardly knowing what to say, remarked, I suppose many of your friends are jealous. Daisy nodded. They're convinced that I have power, and they're continually begging me to obtain royal favours for them. Felicia Metcalfe, for instance, wants a knighthood for her ne'er-do-well brother. She was furious with me when I told her yesterday that Bertie wouldn't even consider passing his name to the Queen. Kate was listening attentively. Lady Metcalfe had certainly been angry enough to kill Wallace for his imagined perfidy. Had she been furious enough for Daisy to attempt to make her look a murderess? Struck by the double motive, Kate decided it too was worth mentioning to Charles. Now that she had someone to talk to, Daisy did not seem to stop. But the loss of friends and companionship isn't even the worst of it, she said passionately. There are so many things I wish to do and cannot. You saw my little needlework school, and you may have heard me speak of the need to change the poor laws and encourage education and clean up the London slums. There are things that I am free to do, of course, but I must limit these activities, for everything I do reflects on the prince. Like this morning's expedition, Kate said quietly. Exactly, it was hazardous to take the prince to the workhouse. There are those at Buckingham Palace, friends of the Queen, who find socialist uprising and anarchist plots behind every such innocent expedition. This makes it dangerous for Bertie to entertain any view, however inoffensive, that has the slightest tinge of liberalism. And Bertie himself suffers from a great ambivalence. He is perpetually torn between his apprehension of what must be done and his desire to conceal him from himself that all is not well with the best of all possible worlds. Those who reveal unpleasant things are not liked for the better of it. She shook her head. So you see my position, which so many naively envy, even denies me the right to express my political views or lend my weight to causes that cry out for my help. I do see, Kate said sympathetically, feeling that the last few moments' conversation had altered forever her view of rank and privilege. But surely you can look forward to a change, can you not? She stopped, not quite sure what she actually meant. Daisy's dark blue eyes were amused. If you're asking whether I will be Bertie's mistress forever, the answer is no. I think, in fact, that my hour is about to come to an end. Until now, deserved or not, Bertie has bestowed utter confidence upon his adored little Daisy wife. But when he learns that others have seen his letter, that silly, indiscreet, darling Daisy letter, he will be frightfully embarrassed and angry. Not angry at you, surely. He will not express his indignation openly, Daisy said, but it will change things between us. I will be a woman who has put him into a difficult position, and he cannot tolerate that. Then you shall be free. Ah, yes, Daisy sighed. Like others of his virgin band, my hour shall be ended, and I shall be released from the royal demands. She was silent for a long moment while the clock ticked and the fire crackled. When she spoke again, her voice was quietly desperate. I shall be free, yes, but whatever else I achieve in my life, I will never be other than the once and former mistress of the prince. But that's not true, Kate exclaimed. There's your school, your political interests, your social concerns. Daisy shook her head. I will not be taken seriously. Look at my predecessors, Lily Langtry, for instance, whose achievements as an actress are quite overlooked. All that is said of her was that she was once the intimate of the prince, and that it was his influence that ensured her success. Kate leaned forward urgently. I'm sure you can find ways to make your message heard. You could run for political office. You could write a book. Publishers are constantly looking for new material. If you have ideas, publishers will be glad to give you the opportunity to express them. She smiled a little. I am myself a writer, albeit of fictions. I know. Daisy gave her an odd look. You? Kate nodded reluctantly, wishing she had not brought it up, but Daisy had confided so many secrets, it seemed only fair to share hers. I'm the author of The Duchess's Dilemma, she confessed, which you read in Backwell's Monthly. I am Beryl Parbrell. You? For a moment, Daisy looked at her dumbfounded. Then she threw her head back and laughed. Of course, I should have guessed. You watch us so closely and you see us all so clearly. What a remarkable gift. I fear I've used it badly, Kate said ruefully. Believe me, I shall make a much greater effort from now on to disguise the characters I borrow from life. She paused. I wonder whether Lady Rochdale ever received an answer to a telegram. I doubt she ever sent it, Daisy said. She shook her head. You're a fine talent, Kate, but I could never write like you. Your stories, My stories are simple stories of the dark side of human emotion, Kate said. You have a cause to speak for, Daisy. You may not see your opportunities now, perhaps, but over the next few years I'm sure you will. You have courage, and that is all that is required. Daisy sighed and shook her head. You make it sound so easy, Kate. You are the one with the courage. I don't know about courage, Kate said. It was really quite simple. I was very poor, I had nothing to risk, nothing to lose, and everything to gain. I have nothing to lose either, Daisy said, and I suppose that is what gives a kind of courage.